Welcome back, folks. Sport Federation TV. We keep talking about sport in the Western Cape across the 6 districts. And, well, as you know, it is, of course, tough times out there at the moment. But a lot of sports have been staying very active. One of the sport codes, of course, as you know, we've covered it a number of times on the show here, is, of course, equestrian sports. And for those of you not sure of what equestrian sports is, well, it's the sport with all of the horses. And joining me on the line now, the chairperson of Cape Town Equestrian Sports, Scharleen Ramsden. Scharleen, welcome to Sport Federation TV. How are things there with you?
Yeah, thank you so much, JP. Things are okay here. We keeping going.
One day at a time. One day at a time. So,
yeah, exactly.
So we believe you guys had a pretty good event this past weekend here in Cape Town.
Yes, so it ran on Wednesday and Thursday last week, and then on Saturday and Sunday. So we had a rest day on Friday with an interdistrict with dressage, show jumping, and equitation. So 4 different disciplines within equestrian.
That's 4 days of putting things together and a one-day break in between. I mean, that must be a tremendous amount of work to keep things coordinated with athletes and horses and districts and so on.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, it's not an easy task at all. And the lady that ran it, Mickey van der Merwe, she's actually the secretary for the Western Cape Equestrian Federation. And she did a phenomenal job of coordinating everything and keeping, because we limited to a number of people on the premises as well. So yeah. That's an extra headache.
If we try and give people who are watching the show right now sort of an outline of how do you go from inception to getting to an event like this, we would imagine it's about a lot of coordinating and also making sure that the facilities are looked after. There's so many balls that you have to juggle here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, and finding sponsors as well is also not an easy task, particularly at this present moment in time. But we're very, very lucky with the for us. I'm not sure if I can mention them or not.
You're welcome to. The more sponsors you mention, the better, because then, of course, they're going to come back. We're going to put them on TV.
Absolutely. So Kuda Insurance, they're a bloodstock insurance company, but they came on board as our title sponsor for the show, which was awesome. So we do really thank them for that.
Yeah.
Mickey, so Europa Equestrian is a show holding body that we have that holds shows regularly for various disciplines, not just the 4 for the interdistricts.
Yeah.
So the arenas are kept in good nick all the time. But
it's a Cape Town venue, Scharleen. It's a venue here in Cape Town, Europa.
Yes, so it's actually on the border of Cape Town and West Coast. It's on that road. Right.
Yeah. I've got a feeling I know where it is. Maybe if you go past an aeroplane runway, you might get out there.
Yes.
So, Scharleen, just talk to us a little bit about the actual. I mean, when you talk about interdistrict, you've obviously, I mean, equestrian is well structured in the Western Cape. You just mentioned the West Coast. Obviously, we know about Cape Town. You've got Overberg. You've got Cape Winelands. You've got Eden and Central Karoo. I mean, again, you've got athletes coming from all over the province.
And we actually did manage to get our Overberg riders to join us. Unfortunately, the Eden riders couldn't make it for the show. We have this issue with the African horse sickness.
Yes.
So it all comes down to that again. So yeah, unfortunately, our Eden riders couldn't join us this time around.
So this is a inter-district championship. So does that mean that the best from the inter-districts will then eventually go on to compete for Western Cape?
Yes. So it's our riders. We're building our base and we're getting to our higher level riders. It is slow going because it is a long process, and you're not just dealing with one athlete, you're dealing with 2 in a partnership. But so our pool of elite riders is quite small when you split it down into the different districts.
Right.
But our provincial team riders will come from those chosen for their districts.
Yeah. And you mentioned, when we started the interview, you mentioned some of the codes that were participating. You know, when it comes to equestrian sport, Well, you won't blame me for losing track. You've got so many different codes. Although I'm doing my very best. That's right. I mean, it's from endurance to tent pegging to peg. I don't know if it's tent pegging or pegging. No, not tent pegging, obviously, but pegging. Showing, eventing,
it's called
and
tent
show.
pegging, yeah.
Is it tent pegging? Okay.
Tent pegging,
so,
yes.
so the event then on the weekend. Tell us a little bit about the different codes and how many codes you had there.
So there were 4 codes in total. So we had equitation, which is a development discipline essentially for show jumpers. It's about your correct basic riding. So the emphasis is on rider's balance, effectiveness. And then we have dressage, which is, I like to term it as the ballet of equestrian sports. And then we had show jumping, which is self-explanatory. We have horses going over jumps. And showing, which is the beauty pageant.
Scharleen, and do some of the athletes compete in more than one discipline? I mean,
Yes.
does a horse, for example, a horse that does show jumping, can a horse that does show jumping do the pegging or the equitation, or how do they overlap? Can they overlap?
So our traditional English disciplines, there is quite a lot of overlap. When it comes to endurance and tent pegging and polo, those tend to be specialized for the horses. But particularly with dressage and showing, or even the jumping and the eventing and the so the eventing is your triathlon of equestrian sports. Those will cross over quite a bit.
And I mean, it was the interdistrict, and I have to ask the question. I know many people probably don't want to pin their colours to the mast, but who would you say? And you have to be neutral now because we know that you're the chairperson of Cape Town Equestrian. But who would you say came out on the top of the pile?
Well, actually, it was a mixed bag, and Cape Town did win quite a few of the editions. But actually, West Coast also won a couple, and so did Wineland. So it was actually quite a nice even spread. It must be said that the Cape Town district is quite. We weighted with the riders. We've got a lot more rider base than any other district. And it's particularly those on the cusp. So Somerset West kind of want to go to Winelands, and the ones further up, Morning Star, kind of tend to want to gravitate towards West Coast. But we cling on to them here in Cape Town.
How are we doing from a provincial perspective? When you now eventually have your athletes at a provincial level, and we eventually see our Western Cape team, how are we going to do against the other provinces?
So our riders here in the Western Cape are incredibly talented, and the unfortunate thing is because we don't have the higher level of competitions here in Cape Town that they do in Johannesburg with the sponsorship and stuff they have in Johannesburg, we tend to lose a lot of our riders up there. But as far as our pony riders and our juniors go, if we can afford to get them to the competitions, we tend to do really well. I think we have our youth champs here this year at Mystico in Winelands. So that's going to be really great because we don't have to worry about horse sickness and quarantining and the expense and all of that. So, which will be great. But we've got some serious talent here. So we need to nurture that.
Scharleen, we'll leave it at that. Congratulations then on another successful event. We're looking forward to following the progress of Western Cape Equestrian and the athletes that are coming through the ranks. And yeah, again, well done to you guys. We know you're always doing such a fantastic job looking after the athletes, and of course we just say stay safe out there.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
There we go, folks. Scharleen Ramsden, she's the chairperson of the Cape Town Equestrian Federation, and great to see that equestrian sports is doing so well in the Western Cape. And active, and very well structured, very well organized, and it really is great to see how positive things are there for our equestrian sport codes. We'll keep following the progress, these events coming up, and we look forward to see who makes it into the Western Cape team, and we'll catch up with them again in the near future. Folks, we'll take an ad break. When we come back from the break, we carry on taking a look at sport in the province. Back in a sec.